Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Talking Ruggers. We have a fantastic guest on this week's episode, one who you may or may not know, but his influence on rugby has been astronomical as he's taken the brand RugbyPass to new heights. He's the man behind the scenes taking the social media to over 2 million followers. He's responsible for God knows how much social media engagement for rugby across the entirety of social media. He is, in fact, the social media marketing manager for RugbyPass, but also does his own little bits of social media content too along the way. He's the man behind the scenes making it all happen so that you guys not only have content to watch, but also a sport to watch too, because it's his presence in the social media space which is helping to grow the game, to make it a financially viable job for players to have, so that we get to watch more of it on our TV screens every weekend. His name, of course, is Finlay Reith. He is a Scotsman, a very proud one at that. So after this weekend's loss for England against Scotland, thankfully we recorded this pre that game, so I didn't get any stick from him for it. But he's a great bloke, funny, good stories. You're in for a treat with this one. If you do enjoy this episode, it'd do me the world of good if you could go down below and drop a like on it or rate it 5 stars, if that's the platform that you're on. If you're down there, you might as well hit the subscribe button too. It's just going to do you the world of good as well, because you can get notified when these episodes come out every single Tuesday, other than the last week. Sorry about that, guys. It is a busy old time with the Six Nations on. I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope you enjoy this episode too. Share it with a friend if you do, and otherwise I'll leave you to enjoy it. Thank you so much for your support. Righto, Finlay. Who is Finlay Reith? For those who may not already know who you are behind the camera a lot of the time. So for those who do not already know who you are, who is Finlay Reith in your own words?
Yeah, well, Finlay Reith, there's a lot to the man. I'll try not speaking too much third person, but on my Instagram bio, I'm just the twat with the camera. But to properly describe myself, I'd say I'm a rugby content creator, and I'm a big Scotland rugby fan. I personally just love the creative spaces, and I love making things, and I love to incorporate that with sport. So everything I basically do revolves around sport and just trying to make something cool.
And that you do, mate. Some hilarious content along the way. If you've not already seen it on TikTok, there's some funny Scotland videos out there. Pretty easy to have some self-deprecating humour in that world at the moment, which we'll get into at a later date, because you have done something that everyone in content creation and rugby has done. Obviously, they've combined two passions, a bit of creation in the latter in a more professional sense, but also just this love for sport generally and rugby specifically. It's something that I realised after working in sales for a year, that I was like, I actually just want to work in sport and hopefully rugby. So where did that passion for rugby start for you right at the very beginning, before the eyes of social media were cast upon you? Where did this love for the game begin?
Right at the very start. Well, we don't actually have to go back that far for myself. I'm a rarely new fan in general. If I was to put the exact date on it, I would start calling myself a rugby fan from 2017, which for, I think, most of the rugby content creators is a very short amount of time. I come from a town called Kinross, which is like a very just standard, boring Scottish suburban town. And there just wasn't that much of a rugby scene. We had a small rugby team, but in the high school sense, it wasn't really encouraged. It wasn't such a strong sport compared to other people. But
where in Scotland was this exactly? Like, because obviously in England, it's quite a north-south divide between league and union. Obviously, union is pretty much just down south. Like, is Scotland separated across different geographies? Is it mainly city-based in Edinburgh and Glasgow? Where were you exactly, and how did that relate to the sporting scene?
I think rugby is always somewhere across Scotland. I think it's always there, but how strong it is and how prevalent it is mainly through class. It's one of the sad things about rugby in Scotland, that it's still very separated by the class system. Your more bigger rugby avid fans would naturally come from private school. I came from a very public school, so it was just very football orientated, which, to be fair, is very similar in some parts of England, but we were never separated by league or union. It was always union, and it was always that type of way. But actually, across the realm, everywhere across Scotland, it's always been a dominant football scene, which I took a preference to. I was quite late in the sports scene as a kid anyway. I didn't start playing team sports until I was about 11 or 12. But then that just became football because that's just what was getting played around me and who I was friends with initially. And then I didn't grow more into rugby until maybe 2015. I knew more a bit about it, and that was probably off the success we had at the 2015 World Cup, and mostly laughing at England of not making it out of their home World Cup. But then as soon as we lost to Australia, I kind of switched off it again, and then it kind of reignited when I joined university. The people I met there and some things that I had gone through kind of just pushed me towards rugby. And then I kind of got opened up into a completely new world of this community base where you've got a bunch of men that are just going to absolutely run at each other, hurt themselves, and go through this utter amount of pain, but all come out as really, really good friends at the end of it. My first rugby session I went to at university, I see this guy just run, do a couple laps of the field, come right to my side where I'm just putting my boots on. He spews his guts up, and then he gets straight back into it. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I'm absolutely shocked. But they just turned to me and they were like, "No, this is it. This is rugby for you. Do you want to be a part of it? Do you want to be with us, or do you not?" And I was just kind of like, do you know what? This looks like a bit of fun. From everything I've seen at university so far, this is probably where I'm going to get a lot of fun from and a lot of friends from. So it was something I stuck into it, and yeah, it grew from there, and it's been a big part of my life ever since.
And out of curiosity, what university was it at?
This is Queen Margaret University. People would instantly think, what is this university? It's probably it's a university that's considered in Edinburgh, but their campus is in a town outside of Edinburgh called Musselburgh. So I like to say that we're the fourth best uni in Edinburgh out of 4 universities. So our rugby experience through that university, through Queen Margaret University, was very much like, we were never the best, but we were pretty good. Like, we were happy to have a bit of fun with it and then just try our best. And like, we managed to actually we were really, really bad for a while. When I joined that team, we hadn't won a single game in about 2 years. And there was risk that the union were going to fold us completely because they're like, "You're causing us a lot of trouble through the general rugby laddie scene. And you're not winning any games. So you're not doing anything for us as a team." So there was a bit of pressure when I came in, but then we managed to just build, I guess, a really good team, this really good group of lads. Some really, luckily picked up some really, really good players. We somehow won a game in my first year, and then in my second year, we managed to go unbeaten. Hand in hand, we managed to pick up some really good rugby players, one of them being a Czech Republican international player who was a fullback but played fly half for us. And we went that second year unbeaten, but it was the pure, like Jose Mourinho park the bus. We conceded maybe 2 or 3 tries across a whole season, and we only maybe scored an average of 2 tries a game. It was defend, and one of the best years I've ever played rugby in my life.
Sounds like a whole lot of kick and press, which is talking my language. The less running I have to do, the better. But what a story, mate. Talking about some Czech Republican international. It sounds like you were the difference maker, mate. What position were you playing? I feel like you might have been in the engine room. You're not a small lad.
I was not in the engine room. My God, I could never, despite my height and size, I am purely a back. I'm a back free player. I work on the wing and fullback, mainly because when I started, I was my height, but I was significantly thinner. I started off as a cross-country runner. So when I started university, I was about 70 kg, 6'1", 70 kg, just really, really fast, but also really, really skinny. And then as the rugby years went on, I tried to take it a bit more seriously. And I was like, okay, I have to bulk up then. Also, through playing university rugby, I broke my collarbone twice, being a bit silly, but one of them was just literally like first. It was so frustrating as well, because it was actually my first start for my university team. Every single game I played up in that moment was always just coming on. So it was always just a good 40 minutes, 30 minutes here, there, put what you need in for the team and everything and just do well. And then they were like, Finlay, you've been playing well. You've been doing great. We're going to give you your first start. I was gassed, so happy. Go and get my first start. And then within the first 5 minutes of the game, I get a break. Ball goes out to me. And I'm like, I just have to run straight and go for the try line. I'm so close. And then one tackle, I just land on my shoulder. I don't really feel much, partially because of the adrenaline, but then some Polish lad fed me 2 caffeine pills, which you might have had caffeine pills before. 2 is too many. I was off on a rocker. I couldn't feel anything at this point. So I got tackled, tried to get back up, and then maybe 2 minutes later, I tried to go back in for a tackle, lift my arm, and I was like, I can't lift my arm. So then I had to just shout at somebody off field and just go, oh, you're on, and just had to go off and just had to sit there and go, lads, I think I've broken my collarbone. They're like, oh God, do you need to go to the hospital? And I was like, nah, I'll deal with it tomorrow. Still went on the night out that night. But it was after that point, I was like, okay, I need to bulk up a little bit. So over time, I have been bulked up. I am now still 6'1", but now about 90 kg. But I still play in the backs. I still play in that back three. It's where I built my experience, and I'm not willing to move forward, because the more forward you move, the more tackles you have to do, and I'm not willing to partake in that.
Such a stereotypical uni story, this. Not only all these tales of drinking shenanigans and lads throwing up before training, which I don't know, I was at Loughborough Uni. I don't think that happened many times at Loughborough with some of these lads, but it says a lot about how much they were flying into the socials compared to you boys, clearly. But it's, first of all, great to hear that you got involved in the game later on. That's a fascinating story. I'd love to see some clips of that. You running down the sideline, hopefully not breaking your collarbone on every occasion. But that looks like an interesting watch. But also, I want to follow on, and you haven't told us about the other time you broke your collarbone, because I get the feeling that one was an off-field occasion.
Well, this was in my bulking process. I did the 6 weeks of recovery. Well, it should be more 8 weeks of recovery, but I'm doing my recovery. I'm doing my bulking. I'm feeling good, and the boys, the university team, just go. There's a lot of sevens events across Edinburgh, and there's this particular one called Forrester's Sevens that we entered, and we were like, we need a couple extra boys. Finlay, can you come down? And I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? I've got work in the evening, but I could do a wee Saturday day social. Did the sevens, and it was my last game. I was just like, lads, I've got to head for work soon. I've got a shift at this bar to do, and I'll play this last game. It'll all be grand. My body has came away pretty unscathed. I'm thinking I'm all right. And then I get the ball out on the wide, and I've got this 1v1 with this guy on near the touch, and I just see him. I try to go on the outside, and I just feel myself going out, and I'm like, fuck, okay. He's got me around the ankles. I'm going out, and then just I see someone just absolutely blindside me from my side. I'm properly out. I hear the crowd. You know the moment's bad when you hear the crowd's like audible O's, and the O's come out. I just feel the same collarbone that I had already broken, just crunch in a million pieces, and I'm just down on the ground, just looking up at the sky, just going, why has this happened again? Like a paramedic came up to me, was like wanting to do all the checks and everything. And I was like, no, don't worry. I felt this before. I know what's happened. I've broken my collarbone. I just went back to the flat, picked out my sling that I had from 6 weeks ago, and I just put it back on again. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is it again. So that was, when was that? That was 4 years ago. And no, not 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. So it's been a bit of an in and out journey of coming back in and out of rugby. I make the odd appearance for teams where I can and everything, but I haven't properly played a full season of rugby for a while now. But mainly off the back of that was the year, and then we broke my collarbone, went into that summer, and then we did 4 or 5 games, and then we went into COVID. And I think ever since COVID came about, that's kind of just mucked around with mucked around with me playing rugby. I try and make the odd appearance here and there, but yeah, with work combined, I haven't been dedicated to a team in a while now.
Well, it's a fascinating story, man, and one that I love to hear as someone who has played rugby since I was 5 years old. You sort of aren't even old enough to remember the awkwardness of like learning the skills. You just sort of do it as a kid. So to come into that environment at a later stage, I'm incredibly impressed with, to be honest, because it can be pretty intimidating in a rugby environment. Like, don't get me wrong, I know what rugby lads are like once you get to know them. Once you're in the inner circle, you're like, oh, actually, this is not so bad. But the actual detail of the sport itself is tough enough to pick up, let alone the contact, let alone that social side. So it makes the fact that, obviously, I've seen your content for a while now. We met on a podcast the other week, and it makes the fact that your rugby knowledge is up there in the rugby ranks as a top Nors even more impressive, because obviously you've not been studying the game like the rest of us have done since the dawn of time. You've been doing it over the last few years, and the takes that you come out with, although a bit outlandish at times and comedic at the core of it, but like it's well informed and it's actually an educated opinion rather than just chucking out a load of nonsense.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those weird things. I did just throw myself into it completely, and it was a lot, like you said, it's really intimidating to kind of get to know and get in with it. But I just have to give it to my team. They were just like, there's some of them right now are still my best friends to this day. I still live with some of them. I still go out with them on a regular basis, week to week. If I see them in the street, happily say hi. And it was just that nice environment. It was it was still very traditional rugby days, like, you know, freshers, seniors and all this crap. But as I grew into it, we kind of edged away from that, and it was still just being about having that brotherhood. And we had a really good, we just had a really good, different skill set of different people. We tried to grab anybody from that QMU team. So we had to have this ability of trying to teach people how to play rugby. I cannot remember his name to save my life, but we had this one guy who came to our university, and he was a professional arm wrestler, and we were just like, this guy's massive, probably about 6'4", biceps the size of tree trunks, and we were like, we need to get this guy in. Sadly, rugby isn't for everyone, because every single time we were playing touch, we'd give him the ball and we're just like, just run it into touch, and just we'll recycle and we'll show you the phases and everything. Every single time he picked up the ball, he'd turn around and start running the other way. And you're like, no. It was so hard to get it into his head. But that was one of our key things, is that, especially with me, I was I knew about rugby. I knew the basics of pass backwards, run forwards, but I had no idea about the technical skills and all these little bits and bobs. And sometimes I'm still learning every day, but we had an understanding that we have a really good pool of athletes here, and we can make a really, really good team if we can incorporate it well enough, which has to be props to the captain and the president at the time. And then, yeah, it was all about building skills, and that just giving people the enthusiasm to wanting to play rugby, which was kind of what gave me that oomph, that I want to go do something. I want to go play for this team, and I want to actually fight for these boys and all that, which was fantastic, because even then, after that, led to me becoming president of the rugby team. At this moment in time, I'd only been in with rugby for about 2 years and properly learning it. And I even said to them, like, we have this end of year sports ball where we all join for breakfast. We decide the next year of the committee. And it was somebody just came to me being like, you might actually be good for president. Would you want to go for it? I was like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's give it a try. And that was all I said in my speech was like, boys, I know nothing about rugby. I'll leave that to the captain. Our captain, who was going for it that year, was a first team Merchiston player, which is like this high end private school from Edinburgh. So he's played with some big boys. He was first 15 and everything. So I was like, this guy knows everything. I'll give you my heart and my drive to help this team work and do all the rubbishy admin pieces that nobody wants to do. Because I really felt like we have a real chance to do something special here. Like, we just went unbeaten in that league. So we got promoted essentially. So there was going to be this new level of rugby, this new standard of rugby that I was just like, I need to get to know what's going on, and I want to take some ownership off it so that it all goes well. And no, it went reasonably well. We won a couple games. We got pumped a couple games, but in that time, I got to learn so much about the game. And also in that way, when I became president, I started using my skills and my expertise in other ways, because we started doing things like filming our games for social media. Preface this beforehand, I was a film and media student at university.
Good to know.
That was all kind of everything I did when I became a president was around my film and media degree of filming games, working the social media channels.
The lads just wanted some clips. They just wanted to blow up on social media. That's why they've given you the job.
We were working in this, like, the second bottom division in Scottish University Rugby, and because we started filming our games, our captain then started doing video analysis sessions every week on a Tuesday. So we do Monday training, Tuesday video analysis, Wednesday was either a game or training, and then we'd either get together again on a Friday, Saturday for social stuff and everything. So, like, this team became committed. Sadly, it only lasted about 6 or 7 months, because we then went into COVID after that, and everything kind of slowly fell apart. But that was one of the things that kind of spawned me making things in rugby, and that kind of started the ball rolling of being like, wow, this is actually a lot of fun. Seeing the engagement I never was like, oh, I want to get a viral clip for our rugby team, but it was more just kind of showing people and showing the community that Queen Margaret had built, of being like, oh no, we are a proper rugby team, and you can come watch us on this day, and you can do this and everything. And the core parts that just informing people like who we are, because for a while we weren't much of a team, and we were actually building into something that was actually quite special and quite good.
And you're also doing my job for me too here, mate. What a wonderful segue into the second part of this podcast, talking about your current present situation, what you do for a living in social media. Sounds like it started then at university with helping your team out. I feel like that's become almost a bare minimum for a lot of teams now. You see everyone's got some sort of social media, Instagram. They always try and throw up a team sheet they put together on Canva. They'll go on a CapCut and chop a couple clips together. They'll forget to take the CapCut band off at the end. So you'll still see that this was produced on CapCut. But they're trying at least, and I love to see it, because everyone wants to be the next big thing. Everyone wants to show off how good they can be, how good they are, what they do for the community. It's something that I've felt a
100%.
lot whilst doing this Rugby Club Crawl series. Like, I get a lot of comments from people saying, you got to come to my local club, we do this, we do that. They love it, and I'm so here for it. I think it keeps the game present and relevant. So talk us through how you've taken that experience at university plus your degree and actually then professionalized it, got yourself into that media space.
Yeah, so just to reference the CapCut thing, I'm so bad for that mistake. Like, the amount of people I put that out onto channels that have millions of followers, and then I just get a message from my boss saying, "You left the cap cut in, you idiot." And I'm like, "Oh no!" But
I mean, well, I've done it once, fortunately, only once, but I'm always so hot on it. And you can turn it off. But just a reminder for people out there: if you do use CapCut on a daily basis, you can turn that off. You just go into your settings.
You can just take it away.
And it won't automatically. Yeah. You don't have to delete it every time. You can just stop it from ever coming up in the first place. So just go into your settings and do that now. It's going to do everyone the world of good, and it's also killing your engagement.
Little social media tips that people don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I know, like, obviously studying film and media, that like being in the media space has always been a passion of me. Like my major ones is like directing and producing things and doing all this and that. But I obviously knew I was never going to get there in a day or two, especially being at Queen Margaret. The types of opportunities that you get there aren't small, but they come very few, especially in Scotland in general. Like, I think opportunities are very few in the media spaces, despite having the biggest arts festival in Edinburgh, like one of the biggest arts festivals in the world in Edinburgh. Media opportunities are very, very few. But they're growing. And I was always like, I just want to be in this space. I want to do bits and bobs. So rugby was always in the atmosphere, but it had to take a wee bit of a park when I graduated from university. I started doing a bar job, but then I kind of just started filming anything I could. I went to my barber shop and just went, "Can I take photos for you?" And they're like, "Yeah, but we can't pay you. Like, what can we give you?" And I was like, "Just give me a free haircut, and I'll happily do that every single 4 weeks. I'll come in, get a fresh trim, take a bunch of pictures for you, and you've got tons and tons of photos for your social media or whatever."
Love that.
So it was a lot of building those things, building my portfolio, worked as like a runner on a couple films and stuff, and just was building from there. And the rugby scene then just kind of came out of nowhere for me. It just RugbyPass, the company which I'm kind of with now, just put up on their social media story. They're looking for a rugby content creator. It was actually one of my friends who I'd met in the university team, sent it to me and was like, you should go for this. It's probably right up your lane. And I applied it, did one interview, and it was a classic, Zoom interview. This was still very COVID days kind of stuff. And I left that interview thinking I messed it up, because in the back of my head, I thought I swore every 2 words. And I was like, they're not going to want to take swearing loudmouth Scotsman. There's just going to be so many other applications that they'll probably not go for me. And I'm out in an Irish pub, just chilling with some friends. It's about 10 p.m. or something, 10 or 11 at night. And I just get a notification. I've got a follow of RugbyPass, and I just assumed that's me got the job then. So after that, I was like, rounds on me, lads. I've got the job at RugbyPass. So from doing a bar job and then just doing a bunch of freelance on the side, I'm then working for, I was still a huge page. When I joined them, they had about 300,000 followers. And now I still work with them and work through a lot of other means in the rugby world. And we're now about 2.3 million. So it's not all me, but it's turned into a bit of my baby now, where I'm like, this is our page. This is what I do. And it feels quite weird to be working in this industry now for one of the biggest social pages and social media companies in the world.
Fascinating. Really is, mate. You've essentially single-handedly contributed 2 million followers to RugbyPass.
Essentially, there's a lot of other points that helped us come along and get us into those places. But yeah, I'd hope to think that I was a key part in all that working out.
And what I love to hear from the story is how pragmatic you were. As someone who prides themselves on a bit of pragmatism, finding a way to make things work regardless of the circumstances. That's exactly what you did. That's the prime reason why I started Level Up Rugby in the first place, not for the sake of social media, but I wanted to become a coach. I realized that most coaches nowadays are ex-pros. That wasn't going to be me. So I had to find another source of credibility. So I thought, well, if I make some followers join the cause, then perhaps they'll give me the credibility online. And that's how I started, just getting that credibility, just by putting social media content out there. And you, in a more literal sense, have acquired a skill set via doing that to then get you this other job. But I want to know, what sort of stuff did you do to stand out within the interview itself to actually get this job? Because it sounds like a bit of a whirlwind over COVID.
I literally just filmed so much, took pictures of so much. Like I took a step back from rugby in a way to then just be the media guy. So it was just me filming people's games or taking pictures. Like there was moments where I would love to have been playing, but then I kind of also knew at the same time that I was like, if I take these opportunities now, I'm going to thank myself much later in life. So there was, when people ask me about getting into rugby spaces, and a lot of them ask me, what did you study? And I try and tell them that, yes, I went to university, I studied something, but it wasn't the degree that got me the job. It was what I did on the side. University is one of those fantastic things that it gives you enough free time to try things out, almost F up so much, and like just go free with it and try whatever you want. Anything that you make in university should be some of the worst things you ever make, because I've always said that if your first stuff is your best stuff, then you'll never make it in the industry. You want to be on this constant upward trajectory. And yeah, I've met some amazing creators who are in university right now. People like Alex Eden, Effie, who was on the pod with us the other week. I think these guys are amazing lads. And I didn't tell Effie personally, but I was mainly telling Alex when I met him at the Rugby World Cup that I was like, whatever you're doing right now, you're ahead of me, because I didn't properly start until maybe I was like halfway through uni, got the president job, and built up from there, even doing my portfolio work after I finished university. Whereas you're content creating now throughout university and building up to it and stuff. Like by the time they get to my age, there'll be leaps and bounds over where I am. So I think it's always in that way that, like you said, you've got to have some sort of greater goal about it, because I don't think it's not like you'll not make it, but I think you've got to have this idea of what you ultimately want to do. Like you said, you want to do coaching, so then you incorporated social media into your coaching, whereas I want to make a massive documentary or a massive film that everybody that everybody will remember. You've got to understand that there's paths to that and there's a building process to it, and you've got to enjoy the process as it comes along. So
a lot of pearls of wisdom in there, mate. 100%. I started Level Up Rugby back in COVID times, and I actually launched it. I preloaded recording a load of content for it, just because one of the most important things on social media, even back then, was being consistent. So I thought, if I preload this, I can just consistently upload. But that resulted in me starting uploading stuff when I was in freshers pre-season at Loughborough University. So a load of stick was thrown my way, and rightfully so, because as you said, if your first work's your best work, then you're not going to be going anywhere. That's a really good way of putting it, I'd say. I think that's a good mentality to uphold, because my stuff was sure pretty bad. But you learn along the way, the game evolves, as do you start playing a bit better, and all of a sudden you can start learning yourself some pretty cool things. And you're right, those I know Alex, I was at Loughborough as well, yes, but he is, same with Efe. I didn't know that. I knew Alex beforehand. I had a pair of boots customized for my mate, but Efe was probably a fresher when I was in my final year or something like that. Probably bashed him at some point. But he's, young in the game, mate. And these young lads are doing some really cool things and some really good for our game, because that's the core of what I think you are saying there, is having that mission beyond the social media itself. Because if you're completely relying on that social media feedback immediately, you won't last very long, because you're not going to get a whole lot of noise coming back your way, because you won't get the likes and the views straight away. There's platforms like TikTok which are more viral and you can blow up on, but even still, it's difficult to master the game on those. So if you have that greater mission, for me now, It was coaching back then. Now it's just about growing the game. All I care about is growing the game, whether that's through an educational format on Level Up, whether that's through an insight format on Talking Ruggers here today, entertainment on OJ Rugby, or through actual like insight and technical on Nudge Rugby, the app. Like, it's all designed to help people enjoy the game more, so more people get involved and everything rises up. So if you have that greater good mission, it can sustain you on that path. And I think that's something that you can clearly attest to here with your greater goals, potentially broadly beyond rugby.
Yeah, I think especially since I've joined RugbyPass and the developments I've taken in the industry and everything, I'm on that same level now. My first goal when I joined RugbyPass was to make it the biggest and best social media page in the world, which we managed to do maybe just before the 23 World Cup, and we've kind of evolved, like just developed from there. We're now in this kind of realm where there's not many there's not a single rugby page that is over 2.3 million. I think we've hit this level of like there's no more fans to get followers off, because I know there's a lot of people that don't like RugbyPass. But I think I've had to reframe my thinking of like, okay, what do I want to do now? And it is, I want to grow the game in general, but I want to do it through my own eyes, my own means. I think there's a lot of people that have this, like you said, how I've sometimes taken the comedy route on my personal stuff. There's nobody else that I saw doing it. Like, you had the rugby guy who's great, and I'm gonna miss someone here. There's somebody I'm missing.
Here comes the hot take.
Who does do rugby comedy, but like, yeah, I saw this gap, especially as a Scotland fan. There's not that many Scotland fans out there. I was like, okay, I can see this gap where I can add a new dynamic to the game that will just get people talking, add this whole dynamic to it, but will ultimately, hopefully, grow the game. And that's kind of, that's now the challenge that I've got right now. It's just, what can I do to grow the game? Especially with like the amount of tournaments that I go on. It's not just trying to make Six Nations the biggest thing in the world. I go do a lot of sevens trips, and sevens is maybe one of those massive products that people don't watch enough of. So I'm like, okay, how do I make that the biggest thing ever? How do I make that complement the growth of rugby? And how do I make that as big as possible? And then how do I make Premiership rugby look cool and big, or even Super Rugby, or then every 4 years the new cycle comes along and it's back onto World Cups and stuff. So there's always new things and new fun things that I'm looking at.
Let's delve into that in a bit more detail, mate, because you're saying, how can I grow this? How can I do that? Like, let's go into the details of what your day or week looks like around certain tournaments, because RugbyPass, of course, is a very interesting position where you're covering all leagues. Like, it's not like you're exclusively the Six Nations or the Prem.
Yeah.
You're trying to do bits of everything. You're trying to become a source of information and entertainment, I assume. But how do you strategize and tactically execute within a working week? Do you have like objectives on the number of videos you're trying to make? I'm actually fascinated about what exactly it is you get up to on a weekly basis.
So, to put more context to my job, I run, off the top of my head, I contribute/run a combination of 5 pages. And so you go RugbyPass, the 7 series, Rugby Rising, Box Office, and like, there's sometimes, I wouldn't say I run this one, but I film a lot for Gainlines Fitness, which is one of the craziest pages we've ever been able to make. And I'm like, I'll give it props to the editor. The editor is the guy that makes that whole page, but I do a lot of filming for that, which get a lot of weird looks from rugby players when they're like, oh no, is that the Gainlines guy? But on a day-to-day basis, it is just building content for every single page. You got to have a detailed kind of strategy of what you put out on the pages. So for a page like RugbyPass, it's got to be maybe 3 or 4 posts a day, or you got to try and just being like, right, what's the big competition that's coming up? RugbyPass is always chasing what the most viral rugby thing that's going on. So right now it's Six Nations. even with Super Rugby on the side, they're introducing new things with that. So you've got to keep an eye on that at the same time. We've luckily got a good team of maybe 4 or 5 lads, so you can just bring them in and just talk to them and just being like, right, what have you got planned today? Or tell them, we've just had this massive Test of Times documentary. We need you to make social output for it and make clips for it. So quite a lot of the time, it's just helping and assisting people trying to make videos. But then obviously there's a lot of editing myself that I do where I'm just like, right, what's viral right now? Or like, so like Box Office is very much a South African rugby page, like glazing what South African rugby is and stuff, which we've got some great tools with archive of Chasing the Sun documentaries or just general World Cup archive that we have. So we just try and build up as much as we can there and then just have a good post going out every couple of days. The same with Rugby Rising. Rugby Rising is very orientated around women's rugby. And then 7 Series, of course, 7 Series. We're hot into the season right now. We've just finished off with Singapore and Perth just the past weekend. So it's obviously just trying to deal with that. But obviously, it's not just me. There's lots and lots of people that go into these types of tournaments and go into these projects. So there's moments where I'm just making sure everyone's doing okay, the content's good. If people need advice or assistance on the piece, I can give that said advice, just looking around like how you hook it and all that. Or I'm actually making the content myself. So yeah, so many things, so many pages to look at. Please, if anybody goes and looks at the social pages right now, bear with me. We've been in a busy period, so pages like Rugby Rising has taken a bit of a backpedal and they've probably not had as much content going out, but it's always in the forefront of like, how is this gonna get lots and lots of views? How is this gonna get shared? When we're always thinking about, like, especially on RugbyPass, is just like, why is someone going to share this and stuff? So that's always our forefront of the mind. We're making this, but why is someone going to share this? Well, like, that's where true engagement comes from. You shouldn't care about likes and comments. It's the shares that really matters. So if you can get everybody sharing that clip, then that's where the extra engagement comes from, and that's where the true views come from and everything. So yeah, we're always looking at different ways, different angles of what can really hit and really hit well. Yeah, there's so many pages that there's so much work to do all the time, but you've just got to be able to structure it well and then just kind of see how it all turns out. My day is always different and it always changes about, because then sometimes I'll be off on a sevens tournament and I'll have to just put all my time into sevens, but then on a couple of weeks leading up to that, and then know I've got to prep more content for Rugby Rising or Box Office or more for RugbyPass, so that when I'm on that sevens tournament, it's all sevens that I do, kind of thing.
I thought I had a lot of Instagram accounts, mate. I didn't realise how heavily involved you were in so many different pots of content, and especially from the very beginning as well, where you're now managing different people. That sounds like just a media machine.
It is a media machine, essentially, now. We've got, we work with different agencies to help us achieve these things, and we obviously have the whole RugbyPass app that's just came through last year, so that's been a massive push to just get people towards that.
That's the point, right? The whole point of this social media content isn't to have more views in that of themselves, but to redirect traffic to, well, now the app.
It's just there's it turns into this massive ecosystem now of how you support content and how you, again, now there's always going to be a bigger picture behind it. This RugbyPass can get so many views and so much stuff. Financially, us getting views on Instagram and TikTok is never at the forefront. It's never our actual biggest concerner. So there's always these other things that are going on that are contributing to the big financials and the big where the money's coming from, how the hell am I going to get paid, kind of thing. So you've always just got to think about, what is this ultimate plan leading up to, kind of thing.
Yeah, what is the ultimate goal for RugbyPass? And are you on a salary at this place?
I'm getting paid a full-time salary, so yes, the way the salaries have worked out have kind of been a bit interesting, but that's just maybe a reflection on where rugby's at right now. I think there's just been a lot of money being spent in the wrong ways. And then, but like recently, over maybe the past 3 years, and like a lot past COVID, there's just a lot more eyes on how are we spending this money and how this thing's going on. So I've only been on a rolling contract since I've been with RugbyPass, and it's just been constantly rolling. I'm technically out of contract past May, so I'm not like, I'll probably still be working with this team, but you can never tell with the landscape of the sport and everything. But it's just one of those spaces that you're in right now.
It's just the life of a content creator. When you're working in an industry that's pretty volatile and pretty performance oriented, I suppose similar to sport, where like if you're not doing a good job, you're going to be out of the job. There is that fear about the future. Like, I don't know when my next gig coming in. It can be seen as nerve-wracking or as exciting. But I think rugby's going in the right direction. Of course I do. Like, I love the game. I love the sport. I'm always going to have that slight bias. But then again, I was hypercritical of the game back when it wasn't doing so well, only a few years ago. So I think the growth of social media, and interestingly, I've got a bit of a bone to pick with Gainline Fitness.
Okay.
And this is entirely satire. Why are they not getting the girls on it? And that is to prove a very political point here, to push a political agenda. If they were doing that about women, that would be comment section galore, because they'd be like, oh my God, you can't sexualize women like this. They're more than their bodies. They're athletes, they're players. You should be focusing on the game. Whereas when the blokes do it, they're like, oh, man, look at his arse. Oh, yeah, I love that. I just think it's a bit of a double standard.
It's a contrary to popular belief. We post a lot of women sometimes, but we've naturally just waved towards the demographic that we built up. And it's mostly like, sorry ladies, if there are lady viewers, female viewers of the Talking Ruggers show, you guys are just as bad as men. Oh my God. The comments that I like, go down on a Gainline's Fitness comment section of a man, that the women on there are thirsty, commenting some of the most heinous things that I've heard, that even I'm like, whoa, that's bad. Like, even like if a man said that about a woman, that's jail time kind of thing. Like, we still post stuff about women. I think there is just a line. I think one of the things that we do, and I think what we're growing in the sport, is that we really just work with the players first off. We've posted some dodgy things in the past. Not dodgy things in the past, sorry, that makes it sound so much worse than it actually is. Things that might not be, like, players might not want online, but then we speak to them, we ask them, and we just go, hey, do you want this? Do you want this up there? Like, for example, there was, this wasn't Gainlines, but it's always kind of the process of work that we do with Gainlines, that when we make a video, we try and send it to, if we think it's hitting that dodgy line, we send it to a player just to be like, yo, is this okay, kind of thing. Most of the time, they're okay with it. But if they say, no, we won't post it, kind of thing. But there was an Irish player, Megan Burns, in Sevens series last year. We were at Vancouver, and we caught her in this lift, which, if you can imagine, we had the whole wide angle. It shone maybe a bit too much, I'd say. And we were like, we can't post this. But there's a realm that it can work. There's a realm that it will get views. So we did a lot of editing that night, and then I sent it to Megan, and I was like, Megan, is this okay? And she looked at it and she was like, I love that video. That's great. Please just tag me. And I was like, fantastic, great. So we got the whole clearance. We posted it. We didn't think it was going to do, we thought it was maybe like a couple million views or something. 35 million views later, we were like, Jesus,
we're onto something here.
We're getting comments on the section thinking, oh, the cameraman should be sacked for this. And they're like, they don't know that this is full editing. We caught the whole angle. It's just, we're decent enough men to say, okay, this is right and this is not right. But it was a viral clip nonetheless, and it grew Megan from about 5K followers to about 20,000 followers overnight. And then we kind of really saw a pure example of like, right, if we're, as a sport, we got to push the boat sometimes and really go for that dodgy space sometimes. I always use the word dodgy, but I wouldn't even say it's dodgy. It's just edgy. Edgy. I think edgy is a better word. Use that, push into that edgy space. And as long as the players are okay with it, because first and foremost, player welfare is always a forefront that has to come in with content. The player's okay with it, let it fly, let it go and see what happens with it. And yeah, it can only be beneficial. The gain lines, yeah. To put the gain lines fully, there's women there, but we've mainly just built up a page of thirsty women that love the content. So it has recently just delved into men only, which, you know, we'll do what the fans love.
Give the people what they want. It's just what kind of people? Like, this is what I've had a conversation around a lot on the podcast, is like sensationalized content. And for example, at the schoolboy level, when I'm on commentary, we're not necessarily at times, depending on who we're commentating on, allowed to overhype certain acts in a game. Like if there's a massive tackle, I was once told not to, I got after it. I was like, oh my God, what a shot. And then afterwards, they're like, can you not overhype those sensationalized moments, because it's dangerous for the sport. Like, we don't want parents to think that rugby is just about smashing people, because then their kids won't get involved as much. So there is that side of things, but also the sexualized content. In reality, these moments reach new audiences. It's not the pre-existing rugby audience. Let's be honest, I don't think people care what sport is being played when these blokes are bent over in front of the camera. I don't think they even know. They just want to see something interesting. If that grows the game, then I'll suck it up and I'll get on board with it. As much as I am a diehard nose for the detail of the game, don't get me wrong, I can see how it works. I'll analyze Jesse Creel's hamstrings if I have to. God. But like, I can see it. It's just the difference for you guys is that you treat it on an individual basis. That's where people are like, well, if it's their body, it's their choice. And you go and actually give them the choice. You go, we're actually going to do this. Are you all right with it? And you go one by one round those people. So I think that's the key difference, is that you put the time in to go and actually make sure you clear this all and get it right.
There was something when I started off at RugbyPass that there was a really, really negative sign around players and media and stuff. It just didn't really feel like there was whenever I saw a rugby player and they were like, their PR or comms person came up to me and being like, you have to do this interview, you could see them rolling their eyes. And I was like, there's just something where I was like, something's wrong here. Something's been fucked up in the past that's just put this negative connotation between the media and the rugby players. And for a while, I was just like, I want to make that better. And especially when I'm on sevens, I interact with the players quite a lot. Like, I'm at their training sessions. We are usually in the same hotel, and we'll share the same spaces on tournament days. So we're interacting with them all the time. So I don't want to be that person that's just going to try and post their own little thing and then hide it from the players and not talk to them about it, because it's so obvious. Like, I'm the same age as most of the sevens players. It's showing my age. There's a lot of people who are like 18, 19 coming into the game, but there's a lot of people my age and still in the game, still playing, that like, you just wouldn't want to go behind them. Like, if you treat them as a normal person, they'll treat you the exact same way. I don't quite get, it's a weird one. I don't get quite starstruck around rugby players, because I just feel like I probably have to have that working relationship with them. I get starstruck with footballers, like, in the weirdest way ever. Like, most low-key footballer, I'm like, oh my God. Whereas I've seen Antoine Dupont. I've been with Antoine Dupont when he did his wee sevens circuit and everything, and I was just like, yo, it's just Antoine. It's just chilling with him and everything. And other people just get so starstruck. But like, yeah, there was always that, like, cojones. I don't know. There's always that way in the space that you could tell players didn't want to do the media stuff. But then I was like, if we're really going to grow the game, we got to get the players to like the media stuff. We need them to get excited when they hear a media day coming up, because maybe it's something that's going to be a nice de-stressor, a nice relaxer from the regular regime that they're stuck to and everything. So yeah, I'm always thinking, what fun thing can I do when I get these opportunities with players? What's the interesting new things? And it's always trying something different and all that. A lot with the sevens, we were trying to just bring out their personalities, just get them speaking to camera a lot. And then, typical female fans, they come back in, you women again, absolutely thirsting all over the Spanish men's team. So we've been working with them a lot recently. But once you build that relationship with the players get it as well. And then they're reacting to camera a bit more, and they're actually doing things, and they're going to do things because they know that said thing is going to be really, really good for the video. And it just brings that whole ecosystem together, which, yeah, I think is just going to make it even better over time. So yeah, we saw good success of it with the Women's World Cup, that the women were all over the social media and they just loved it. And I think that's the path that we have to take. And I'm not saying you have to take it. You have to build a social media presence, but it's kind of one of those aspects of it. Either get really, really good at the game and become one of the best in the world, or if you don't know if you're going to be the best in the world, try and grow your media platform a bit more, grow a brand and everything, and then that you can help build your ways and stuff and find that all out.
You've done my job for me again, Finners. You've just segued beautifully into what now it was the final section of the podcast, looking into the future of the rugby world through the lens of content creation. And interesting answer, because you're targeting the players rather than the fans and content creators doing more. You're saying, no, the actual players need to go about this differently. And interestingly, you talk about the game behind the game. We've spoken a lot about content creation, coming up with ideas for social media content, but it's actually, from a creator's perspective, like we've done content shoots with pro players before, it's how you treat those players on the day. That's the skill behind the skill. It's all well and good knowing how to shoot the right aspect ratios, how to edit and get rid of cut banners. But what's actually most important is the time before you ask the question to the athlete themselves and warm them up in the right way, give them confidence to go express themselves, as you guys got so right clearly at the Women's World Cup. And that's where value is added beyond our complicated game, because it is complicated. We want to reach new audiences. We've got to find a way to keep them entertained whilst we sort of explain what's going on. It's kind of like having a Subway Surfers video at the bottom of your TikTok whilst you're watching the main clip up top. Like, you need something entertaining to keep people engaged whilst also educating people on how to understand the game and watch it and enjoy it more. And it's a blessing to have the likes of RugbyPass on side doing that.
It's that way that you build. It's that people go and watch the sport because of the personalities. I think if you always think back to rugby and stuff, I think you always fall in love with a player before you properly fall in love with the sport. I think especially with women, like I've seen this so many times that I've seen people comment on like who's the best women's rugby player in the world. A lot of people will go Alona Mar, and I love her to bits. She is great at rugby. She will absolutely cream me any day of the week. She's nowhere close to being the best in the world. I think she'll even say that herself. She's up there as a great utility player in the sevens, but even on a sevens aspect and a union aspect, she is nowhere close to being the best player. And like I said previously, it's either be the best at the game or be a personality that people want to come and see. And that's what Alona went down. And she's being able to have this she's able to have the opportunity now where she can live the lifestyle of a pro athlete without having to directly be paid by her club or her country to become a pro athlete. She's built up this profile where she's got all these other job opportunities. Hopefully she does come back and play rugby soon before 2028 comes along. But it's a really good way to look at it, and players need to work on it. And it's also at the same time, I think players just need to chuck out a hand and just go, yo, can I like, I need help and everything. I speak to a lot of the GB boys, and they love doing their little social pieces on their social media, but they don't have the right match footage, or they don't have the game stuff and everything. I film so much game footage on a regular basis on these sevens events that I don't end up using on our social channels. I'll just hand it to the players. I'll just go, just you take it, you make something off it, because if anything, it's going to grow your own brand, build up social media followers, and then every single time you maybe post on your story that, hey, I'm playing at the sevens, it's getting streamed on this thing, and they've got 100,000 followers. Hopefully some of that 100,000 followers will go watch said live stream, or they'll go watch that, they'll go to the rugby match itself and everything. I think you're more likely to act and watch something than RugbyPass maybe sharing a story going, yo, this is what's on the RugbyPass app today. People would prefer to hear that from an actual player. And there's lots of different ways how we can evolve it and like develop it. But the more the players catch on to it and present themselves in a way that can build a profile or build a brand and everything, it'll work really, really well. And you can just look at Joe Marler, what he's done after Traitors and everything. And he still does rugby, but he's a personality that opens up to the wider community, and like the whole of the UK now love him. So what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen if you just stick your neck out and become a bit more like Joe?
Hear, hear. You're a good man, Finn, for sharing match clips, because I know as a kid growing up, I always wanted mine. But you're right. A rising tide raises all ships. If you can help others out, you're going to help the growth of the game. But tell the Talking Ruggers audience who have made it to the end of this episode, because they will be a top noise if they have, how they can help you specifically, mate. You do enough for the game. RugbyPass, with the massive following it has already got enough help. So how can the people help you?
How could the people help me? Personally, let's all, before the England-Scotland game, stage a strike and get rid of Townsend. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. A lot can be said about him, but that's not what we need to fix right now. I would think it kind of always goes back to support some form of rugby. It's like, it could be anything. Try and find your link and your passion towards it, and then go support it. What's most accessible to you, and what do you consume where you can involve rugby in it? Whether it's going to your local club, playing at your local, like even if you can't play, go to your local club more often and just partake. Because I think local rugby clubs is one of the best things in the world, because it shows so much community, and there's so much you can do around it, whether it's just going to watch the game on the Saturday and then have a couple jars at the end of a game and just invest into that clubhouse, because they've spent, like, that small club has spent so much money to build this house, this safe haven that everybody can come to and drink a couple pints together. And it gets overlooked and nobody tends to go to it or anything. Like, before all the rugby, I worked at a cricket ground called the Grange in Edinburgh, which was just the local cricket ground, and it was also used as the international grounds for Scotland games and stuff. But I worked in this old clubhouse, and nobody ever came to it. And I was like, this is a beautiful building, a piece of history. And in the summer, you can come down on a Sunday and drink a couple pints and watch some cricket with your mates. Like, try and think about that, ideally through the means of rugby, because that's the key part about it. And if you don't have a local club that you can go to on a regular basis, watch the rugby. Go add to the viewing numbers on whether it could be whatever's on RugbyPass or whatever's on TNT or this, that. There's always going to be some form of rugby watching, and just watch it and add your opinion to it. Even if it's going to be this crazy opinion, I'd rather hear a crazy opinion than the same one that everybody else has said. I always go for that. I'd go for the wild and outlandish, but it always comes from just thinking outside the box, thinking from a different angle of how we can look at rugby that creates conversation and creates ideas and stuff. So you see something on the pitch that you're maybe not sure of, maybe you don't have the full knowledge, go to your friend and ask them, why has this happened? Or is this happened because of this? Or should we look at it from a different angle? Because then you might get your friend who's this rugby avid fan, thinks they know everything, to look in a different way. And that just adds depth to the game. I think depth is the main thing that rugby needs to have, of not just having this straight respects and all this. You need to have every single facet, like we've mentioned with game lines and the thirst trappiness of it, to your rugby coaching, to my comedy and stuff. It's just got to have all these different levels of actual, like, everything that all meets into one thing, rugby, so that when new people want to get into rugby, they can get into the certain parts that they want to get to, whether it's the thirst trappiness or your coaching, or they just want to have a laugh and watch my videos. Consume something and then build around from it. And that's the key parts about it.
God, fire me up. Another humble answer, mate. All you had to do was shout your own Instagram handle, but you've gone on a motivational speech there, mate. That's dilly. I can't get any further beyond you, mate. The passion there is evident. And you're right. You're right, 100%. It's watching the game isn't enough. Rugby's tough to get into sometimes. It's complicated. So you're right, that depth of enjoyment, just talk about it, get involved in the game beyond just watching. It's a reflection of social media. How you said earlier in the episode, shares are far more valuable than likes. Like, views oftentimes a rough indicator, but aren't actually significant of value. It's those conversation pieces, the actual engagement itself, that makes the most. Like, I can stare at a wall and watch the paint dry, but I'm not going to engage with that, That's the most important thing.
People, hey, like you said, people can go follow my socials, but I think in the grand scheme of things, we'll all grow in general if the sport grows. So yeah, add that extra depth to it, add that extra level, and just go. If you haven't done rugby properly, just go give it a try, because I think it is one of the best. It is the best sport in the world now. I was a football fan and still am a football fan, but I'm now fully converted to rugby because I've just accepted it's better.
What a story, mate. What a story. What an episode of Talking Ruggers. Don't worry, I'll do it for you, mate. I'll leave your handles down below in the description. Go check out Finlay's stuff. It is comedic, and it's always fun to laugh at Scotland anyway. But thank you guys so much for joining us. If you made it this far into the episode, as we said, you are a top Nors. So I hope you have fun at training on Tuesday, Thursday. Go well on the weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.